Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Kyle's Corner. This time I have two guests with me, two really good friends of mine. I decided to get the British people to, congregate together so that the time zones work a little bit easier. So Abby and Johan, why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick for anybody who doesn't know you, although I'm sure everybody does.
How do you like being lumped in with the British, Johan?
Yeah, I was like,
I know. I just mean for time zone sakes. I know, I understand.
No, I lived in the UK now for 4 years, so I suppose I'm a bit more British than I was, at least.
Colonization. I know, yeah.
So yeah, my name's Johan. I have the channel called Library of a Viking, and yeah, I love books. I live in the UK in Southampton currently, and yeah, mostly focus on fantasy books, really. So that's a very short introduction.
Yeah, good.
Hi, I'm Abby from the channel Abby Salter. I am British, born and bred, fully British as you can be, probably. I also predominantly speak about fantasy on my channel, some sci-fi, some romance, a variety of things, but those would be the three genres that I would mostly talk about, and then the generic booktube content is what you'd expect: the TBRs, the wrap-ups, the reviews, that whole shebang.
Hello, thanks for joining us, Chadia. Yeah, Johan, I figured like I'm American, but people always lump me in as a Canadian just because I live here. So I was like, that's what I'll do to you.
Oh, nice.
We have Nemos here. Nice to see you. Yeah, see, exactly. I really think about the European audience when I do these things. The last time I did one with Jake, because he was off school and it just made sense for us to do it during the day. And I had a couple of people be like, why is this on a Tuesday morning? And I was like, because I wanted it to be.
The thing is, if you try to say, we're going to do this at American evening, I'd be like, no, we're not. That's when I'm sleeping. That's 2 a.m., definitely sleeping.
Well, when I was trying to schedule this, I was talking to Abby, and she didn't even assume. She's like, I could only do weekends because that's the only time the time would work. And she's like, although I guess, my evenings is your daytimes. And I'm like, yeah, that totally works.
Yep.
So what are you guys reading right now?
Oh, I am halfway through Golden Sun by Pierce Brown.
I thought, yeah. And I hear you're liking that one quite a bit more.
Yeah, so much more. I mean, it's not 5-star read at the moment, but it's around 4.5. So that is a significant improvement from Red Rising, which I mean, I didn't hate it, but when you hear the hype for Red Rising, and then you read the first book, and it's just like, I don't know, it was just okay. But Golden Sun is bringing basically what I wanted from the series. I'm now getting in Golden Sun. So I'm really happy about that. And I can definitely see the potential for this to become one of my favorite series at the moment. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And then I'm also reading The Whale Throne by Ken Liu.
How far in are you?
I am around halfway through. I mean, that book is chunky. It's like 1,000 pages.
It's huge. The Veil Throne is really good. I think you're going to like Wall of Storms more, but...
that's because Wall of Storms is the best.
I mean, it is, but so there's going to be hard. I just recently told Evie that I think she's going to like Veiled Throne more, and I think, but the Wall of Storms is just too good. So
it is. It's an unbelievable book, The Wall of Storms. But I'm enjoying the Veiled Throne. I do find it a bit challenging at times to keep track of all the characters and so on. But for me, like the Netherland Dynasty, even though there are some wonderful characters, it's much more about the plot and the history and the rise and fall of empires. So yeah, like even if I don't really remember always who that person is, I still really enjoy it. Because it's almost like 1,000 short stories that are connected, but again, maybe not connected and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
yeah. I think Ken really is very good at getting across a character in a small amount of pages. So even if you forget if that character's been around before, you just spend a couple pages with them and you're like, but I'm invested. So he's very good at that.
Yeah, because when I started reading The Grace of Kings, so I would actually write down the characters, but they were all killed off within 100 pages. So I was like, I'm gonna stop trying to keep track of even there isn't a real protagonist in this story. As even the main characters, they've all been, okay, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, most of them.
From the first book to the rest of the series, it changes. I'd say
I would say
there are main characters for books 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just
but,
different to the prequel story in Grace of Kings.
Book 1 was so hard for me. It was like one of the first fantasy books I read that wasn't A Song of Ice and Fire, and I did the same thing as you, where I was like, oh, these are our main character. Nope. And then I was like, oh, this guy's this guy's gonna be and I was like, I remember turning to my wife and being like, I don't know what this guy's doing, but I don't like it. Like, I was specifically like, I do not like this. And then I finished the book and I was like, I think that was one of my favorite books I've ever read. And she's like, didn't you not like it? I'm like, eventually I got used to it, but it was a big adjustment. Leo is
so
also reading this series right now, and he likes Grace of Kings the most. I remember him reading that and just like going wild.
It's very, very much a series that I almost feel like it's a bit like recommending Malazan. Just it's easy to recommend a Malazan, obviously, but like I totally get it if people don't enjoy it, because like it can be hard to get attached to the characters, and just there's so much information that is being thrown at you. But yeah,
especially in Grace of Kings, I think Grace of Kings is
the first half.
Like, yeah. Hey Christopher, how's it going? Hey Laura, nice to meet you. See you. So what are you reading, Abby?
I just finished reading The Forgetting Moon, my reread of
the book we were supposed to buddy read together 3 months ago that I have not started.
How is it? It's been on my TBR for ages.
I mean, it was a reread, so I read it 2 years ago now and really, really liked it. And probably give it the same rating again, which is like 4.5.
Wow.
So it's a lot. There's like multiple perspective, epic fantasy, loads and loads of tropes that I really enjoy, where there's like religion as a theme and how religion's interpreted differently. There's a castle with loads of secret passageways. Everyone's very grey morality. You don't really know who. There's no good, bad. Everybody makes bad choices. Like a lost heir, potentially, the lost chosen one. Just lots of generic fantasy tropes, but I think they're done well, and it's very compelling to read. It's very dark.
The next two?
I've read the second one. I need to do my reread, and then the third one the first time. It's very dark. There was a scene, and I knew it was coming because I remember reading it obviously 2 years ago, and I was like preparing myself for it, because 2 years ago I read it just before I went to bed. Like, it was this is going to be my final chapter, and I start reading the final chapter, and I was like, and I was like, how am I meant to go to sleep on this now? I'm going to have nightmares. So this time I read it whilst on a train, which I don't know if it made it any better, but it was still a very traumatic scene to read. I think like it's the grimmest scene I've ever read, I think. So definitely grim.
I've heard they're very dark. Like I'm you know, I was actually thinking about the other day, because it's one of the, like, it's the book you recommended to me for like the 12 booktubers thing. And so I'm going to read it this year. And I realized I haven't read any grimdark this year. Like last year I went through all of Abercrombie. I read some self-pub grimdark, and I haven't read any this year. And I'm like kind of getting the itch. So I think that I'm going to dive into it soon, because I haven't been reading as much dark stuff.
Well, prepare yourself. There is a chapter, which from my memory, the first book, it had this like one chapter, which was exceptionally grim. And then the second book, it was more an average level of grim throughout.
So like it just spikes hard in one chapter. That's
the
first
book, it's just one, maybe two chapters that are just super intense, and then it eases off a bit. So I finished that, and I was like, I need something really light. So I'm reading Love Theoretically, which is a romance book by Ali Hazelwood.
Nice. Sounds like the polar opposite.
I was like,
I need to find goodness again.
I need to change it up a little bit here. That I went a bit too big on the grim epic fantasy. I need something light to put in between before I go to Last Argument of Kings, which I think will be my next one.
Ooh, nice. And is that a reread as well?
No, that's the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, she's just making her way through.
Yeah, nice. Well, I still need to read Red Country and Sharp Ends, but I read all the other First Law books. And
I don't know how you're going. Oh yeah, because you started with Age of Madness. You're a wild man.
No, I didn't start with Age of Madness.
Oh, you skipped them? Okay.
No, I read First Law and then Besser Cold, and then I had heard so many great things about Age of Madness. So I did ask some people that had read it, like, can I skip the Heroes and Red Country? And most of them were like, yeah, like there are some characters that show up as well, but like you can still read Age of Madness, enjoy it. And I did, and I loved it.
Yeah,
So I
Age of
didn't really feel
Madness
like
is just
I missed
next level.
anything by
Yeah.
doing that, really.
Yeah, so people act a little weird with like skipping things and like catching references. I do think if you are to read a standalone, The Heroes is the one that ties most directly to Age of Madness, but I
Yeah.
don't think like Age of Madness you're gonna have all the context you need. It just you see some of these characters when they're younger and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I'm
yes.
excited for you to get to Age of Madness, Abby, because the first trilogy is really, really good. I really liked it. It seems like you're liking it slightly less than me, but still liking it a lot. But Age of Madness is just
I feel like
revolutionary.
I'm gonna like Age of Madness.
Yeah. That was
Uh,
also the best books of the series for me, at least. Which I
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
I think on book 2, most people think the first lot is best. Maybe that's like nostalgia and stuff.
I find more people like the Age of Madness trilogy in my circle. But you know what? There's some people that just like think the OG. I think it's kind of mixed now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's just because the characters from the First Light universe, like First Light trilogy, are so iconic. Like when you mention iconic character from the series, you always talk about the First Law trilogy
Yeah.
usually. But yeah, I think
I mean,
Age of
they've been
Madness.
around for like, 15 years
Yeah,
almost at this
yeah,
point. So I'm sure in a while people will be talking about Orso and Ricky and all them as iconic characters.
yeah.
A bunch of
On
people
that
here are
comment,
talking
I
about
did read the Paper Menagerie before reading the Dandelion Dynasty.
Paper Menagerie is so, so good. And I heard Fantasy Awash down here say it's super dark and upsetting. I would not call it dark. I actually don't think it's a very dark. I mean, it deals with dark things in some of the short stories, but I would find it a very hopeful and uplifting book. But it's just, there's also some really heavy content. So
I think
it
it can
is sad.
pull. Yeah, it's sad. It can pull on your like heart a little bit. It's not dark in the. I guess there are some dark themes in some of the stories, but I wouldn't say it's dark like a grim book. It is hopeful. But
the Rogue here says that he'd have to reread Grace of Kings to continue on. I really, really, really don't think you need to. Like, if you even just message me, I can give you the cliff notes in like 2 paragraphs, and that's all you need. I read The Grace of Kings in 2015, and I was like, you know what, I'm good. It kind of feels like a standalone. And then I read The Wall of Storms in 2021, and I did not use a recap. And I mean, there was like a couple times where I'm like, wait, was this guy in the first book? But for the most part, it's just like kind of starting a new story arc, and it references all of the things that are necessary in the second book. I honestly think that you should be able to just start the second book and you'll be fine.
I think from the second, third, and fourth, you probably need.
That's way more of a continuous story.
But Grace of Kings is like a prequel in some ways to the rest of the series, which all stands as those 3 books.
Yeah, definitely. A massive.
Yeah, the second Apocalypse I hear is quite wild. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I'm either gonna love it or be like, this is too much for me.
The thing is, like, I've come to realize that I love grimdark, but I don't enjoy when it becomes too dark or nihilistic.
Yeah.
Like almost all the books I've ever DNF'd are like these books that are too dark, like Prince of Thorns. Well, I did finish Prince of Thorns, but like, yeah, like made no sense. I'm not sure if you read Gunmetal Gods by Samuel.
I haven't yet, but I heard. So here's the thing: I had some friends in Discord, buddy, reading it, and they all hit that scene, and they were like, "This." They were liking the book up into that, and then like all 3 or 4 of them were like, "This scene is too far," and I was like, "Okay, I want to know what I'm getting into. Can you just tell me what this scene is?" And they told me, and I was like, "That's pretty far. That's pretty wild." So
yeah, the thing is, like, it's so important for me to find some redeeming qualities to the world or the characters, and when it's just like dark, like, and no hope and just brutality, I stop enjoying it. Really, I enjoy grimdark, but yeah, there's a balance.
For Claudia's question, it was like chapter 18.
Chapter 18.
Around there. Because that's the most non-spoilery way that I can describe it.
Yeah, Fantasy Awash and I were talking about this recently, that we were saying Age of Madness seems to be more popular.
Maybe Age of Madness has had that like hype over the last year, whereas as it's just come out.
Yeah,
third book just came out last year.
So this is mainly what I think. Age of Madness has a better story, and it has much better female characters, and I think that really helps.
I definitely agree with that. The story is better. Like, I mean, the Blade itself, like, I know it has a reputation for not having a story, but it doesn't really have much of a story, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's when people say it has no plot, I kind of don't agree, but I get where they're coming from. But it's definitely meandering for sure.
Yeah. So.
One thing I did want to ask you guys about, though, is DNFs, because Abby just posted a video recently where she's like, I DNF'd twice this month, and it was actually kind of nice for me. Now you just mentioned that you have been DNFing Grimdark, kind of. So what do you guys think in regards to DNFs? Like, how often do you guys do it? And like, do you try not to do it, or are you just liberal DNFers, or how you do?
I've DNF'd 3 books this year, which is, I mean, it's not a massive number, but 2 years ago, I would never DNF. So 3 is definitely an improvement, if you can call it that, from 2 years ago. I often find it hard to DNF if I felt like I haven't finished a book for a while. Then I feel like, oh, I really should push through, because the feeling of finishing a book is so satisfying. Yeah. But I can tell you which books I've DNF'd, and there is a theme. Dead House Gates, Book 2 Molasson.
Oh, I was gonna circle on to that one. Okay.
Yeah, but it's quite
you've officially DNF'd it now.
Yeah,
you're totally done. Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, this guy releases a video. He's like, Malazan fans, I'm not liking Dead House Gates. I'm gonna continue it though. And then like 2.5 days later, he'll release another video, and he's like, Malazan fans, I've read 5 pages. Like,
no, it's more like a month. I did read like 10 or 15 pages, and yeah.
You shouldn't force yourself through that book if you're not enjoying it.
No. The thing is, like, again, it is more leaning to a hard DNF at this point, but I'm very open for maybe in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, if I feel the itch and the need, I might pick it up again. So just because I want to understand why people love it. But yeah, I think Dead House Gates is definitely a book that is set in quite a, I don't know, dire, quite depressing setting. Then I DNF'd Gunmetal Gods, which I'll already talk about. It's a very dark book. And then The Black Company, the first book in The Black Company.
Really?
Oh, I could not get through that book.
Is the short sentences, or is it like, what do you think it was?
It is one of the most disjointed books I read in my life. And I only read around 40%, like half of it around. Like every single chapter is like I don't know, like I just didn't understand what was happening. And the characters are so flat, and they're just like doing stuff, and I don't know. It was just like a horrible reading experience for me. I've heard that book 2 and 3 they don't have that kind of writing style.
Yeah, the first book is really a collection of short stories. I don't think, based on what you said, I just don't think the series is for you. If you ever do get curious, I would just skip book 1 and try book 2 and see if you feel that it's better, because it is, first of all, it's a much better book in like pretty much every way.
That's what people say.
And then it also is like one continuous story, and it switches from first person to third person because it has 2 storylines. Okay. And most people find that easier. But it sounds like probably just not your series. But if you ever get curious, I would try this.
Yeah, but like, at least on my copy, it never stated that The Black Company was a short story collection. And I don't think it's marketed as a short story collection. Yeah,
it's not officially a short story collection. It's more just like vignettes kind of deal. But it's very jarring. I agree. Yeah. I gave it 3 stars. But I gave Shadows Linger 4.5. So.
Yeah. Because I was kind of getting a bit into it and stuff like that. But like whenever a new chapter started, and I was just like, what is going on now? Who are these characters? What are they talking about? And like, I don't know, like the characterization and stuff, it just didn't work for me. But yeah, as I said, maybe book 2. I heard it gets so much better. So
yeah,
but it was just such a bad reading experience that I just didn't want to push myself.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And even though it's relatively short, it's like 200 pages or something. It's very rare for me that
honestly,
I can't finish.
I'm gonna be honest. I had the audiobook. I don't know if I would have finished it if I didn't have the audiobook. But the second one I read physically. So
well,
me and
DNF is good. It can be definitely. Sometimes it's one last thought before I give it over to Abby. Sometimes it is worth pushing yourself a bit, and I usually I don't DNF unless if I've actually read at least 50 more pages after I've stopped wanting to read a book or something. Maybe 100 pages sometimes. So yeah, okay, I'll give it over to Abby.
Me and DNFing. I don't feel like I'm a serial DNFer. I feel like I'm generally I've committed to this story. I'm going to keep going, and then I'll go, I'm just putting this book on pause. And then it will stay on pause until I'm like, this isn't a pause, it's a DNF.
Oh no, that stresses me. I can't do pauses.
Yeah, I pause books all the time. I forget that I paused them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Growing up, I think I would just put books down and never really finish them. Like Embassy Town by, what's his name, China Melville. It just never got finished. I don't think I ever went, I'm DNFing this book. I think it just never got finished.
Oh.
And I would just reread again and again my favorite books, and wouldn't go back to that one. That one and Artemis Fowl just. Artemis Fowl, I tried so many times. I was committed to trying to finish that book, and I don't think I ever did. And then I think when I first got back into reading, about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I never really got out of reading, but like when I got really into reading, I think I didn't really DNF. I just was like, we read and we get through it. And then now this year, I think I've been DNFing more. So like you, Johan, I think I've DNF'd like 3 books this year, or paused, but they're DNFs. I just prefer to tell myself they're pauses. It feels too brutal to say it's a DNF. But no, they are DNFs. I think normally it's probably quite early on. Weirdly, this last month I DNF'd like 75% of the way through. And that was weird. And that was for the Blood Gift, the second book in the Blood Trials series. And that was because I was listening to the audiobook. I then went on holiday, didn't listen to it for 2 weeks, and was like, I think I just am happy to leave this now. I don't see the desire to go back to it. But I'll mark it as read because I read the bulk of it.
Yeah, at that point I would rate it. Like I wouldn't give it 1 star or something, but I would be like 3 stars or something because you read most of the book.
Yeah, I don't know if I gave it a star rating. I think I just marked it as read.
As read, right.
So
yeah, being in the book community.
But like I think over the past few years I've hardly DNF many books unless there was one that angered me in like 2021, which was just the most awful book ever, and I do not understand the hype for it because it is just awful. It was Sea of Ruin. It was a historical romance that people raved about, and I was imagining it was going to be Bridgerton meets Pirates of the Caribbean, and it was just awful, and people seemed to love it. And I got 100 pages in and skimmed the rest, and I was like, this is just going straight in the bin. Well, the charity shop.
I think that is the most frustrating part, is when everyone raves about a book and you're just like, I just don't get it. Why are people loving this so much?
I was like, this is not
often like I get
it's
it.
very problematic, exceptionally problematic.
Exceptionally problematic.
It was, honestly. I was like, I do not root for this romantic pairing, so
right.
No.
What do you think about DNFing, Carl?
So one thing that I've noticed being in the book community is that we all talk about DNFing. Like I kind of use my wife as a litmus test, because now she will use the phrase DNF and she'll talk about, she's like, oh, I'm just going to DNF this book, but she never in her life did. And so I started doing it and explaining it to her, and then now she'll talk that way. But a lot of people that I know, like in my personal life, they don't even think of books in that term very often, and like we kind of have like a negative connotation to like DNFing. Like, so I DNF'd a book that I was loving, Behave by Robert Sapolsky. It's a neuroscience book. Everybody in like the neuroscience, like bio psych field really like it, and I technically DNF'd it because I was using it as supplementary material when I was taking neuroscience. And then as soon as I finished the class, I'm like, I don't want to learn a thing about the brain, so I just set it down, and it's been like a year. So technically I've DNF'd that book, but if I say like, oh yeah, I DNF'd it, people automatically have like a negative, like, oh, you didn't like it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't work that way. Like I think that's just in our community. We really are primed to see it that way.
Yeah.
Because my wife has been 100. She's this far into Warbreaker for like a year, and she has not DNF'd it. If I said, are you going to finish Warbreaker? She's going to say, yeah, of course I am. She has no intentions of not DNFing it. She just got busy, and then she picked up a different book, and then that book was interesting. And then, so the reason that I'm saying that is that I think in our community, we get really hard lines about this, and it doesn't really help our reading. So I saw earlier that Fantasy Watch says, I never DNF. Now, I'm not calling her out. I'm just saying, because I saw that. When people say they never DNF, a lot of times they're just suffering through books that they're going to hate. And then they don't move on to something else that they end up liking. But on the other side, if people are like, I give a book 50 pages, and if I'm not like super invested, I DNF, then it's like, but if you pushed a little bit further, then maybe you would love it. So it's a really, really rocky situation, I think, because I just take it book by book and like how I'm feeling in the moment. And, you know, I try not to have a policy, because if I have a policy, I'm boxing myself in, and I'm orientating my thinking into what I've already pre-planned as like, oh, I'm going to DNF this because by chapter 5, it's not the most interesting thing I've ever read. So I'm trying to just be flexible with that. But for the longest time, I would never DNF. That's why I think this way now, is that I would be like, I have to finish this book. I started it. And I've been a lot better
I don't
about that.
feel like I DNF lots of books, but I am very, very good at giving up on series. Like I'll read that first book and be like, 3 stars, not continuing. So I've got, I don't know, like 50 series that I've started and decided that I'm not keeping going with in my lifetime now.
Yeah.
Because that I'm very good at. That I'm like, right, that's not worth it. Series, done.
This is another thing. Fantasy Awash says, I do suffer through it. However, I also feel like I've become pickier with what I'm going to read, and it does result in fewer books that I want to DNF. That's absolutely true, especially as you read more, you talk to more people that have similar thoughts, and it's much less likely that I come across something that I hate that I don't want to continue reading. But also, Leo had a wild experience with the Sword of Kaigen. Have any of you read this?
Yes, I have.
I read it. Yeah, I loved it.
He DNF'd it in chapter 6, I think, the flashback chapter. And he was like, this book's terrible. I don't understand why people like it. It is literally trash. Like, it's so weird. It's just a bunch of exposition. And I bugged him for like 3 months or something like that. I was like, Leo, just read one more chapter. And he read the next chapter and he just like binged the rest of the book and was like, this book is beautiful. It's amazing. And I'm like, this is why DNFing is hard, because you hear stories like that. And you're like, what if that's the next chapter for me?
I mean, the same thing happened with me and the TV show of Game of Thrones. Like, I definitely watched the first couple of episodes and was like, maybe not. And then season 3 came out and I was like, let's give this another try. And got to whatever point and was like, I am hooked.
Yeah, especially that first season. If you don't know what's going on, it needs a few episodes. Hello, Shad. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go back up to a comment here. I just didn't want to interrupt our conversation. Abby, do you know that I don't really like Faithful and the Fallen? I don't remember.
That's because you have no taste in Faithful and the Fallen.
It's an okay series. It's firmly okay. It's
have you? What about the rest of his books?
I love Shadow of the Gods. That book is incredible. Nice. Hunger of the Gods I liked a little bit less. It felt middle book syndrome to me, and like every single person had a blood feud, and I was like, can we have 20% less blood feuds? But it was still like a good book. Like I still really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I don't think Faithful and the Fallen's bad. Like, you know, Leo was kind of playing around with me. I got really burnt out on how repetitive it was. I think that would have been a really good like trilogy, but it just had too much of the same running and fighting and running and fighting. So that was my thoughts.
Yeah, it's weird with the Faithful and Fallen because I mean, I will still say it's one of my favorite series, but the more I read and the more time that is going by, like, it's not that I think, maybe I think a tiny bit less of it. Like, or at least I understand more that it's not like a literary masterpiece, but it's just so enjoyable. At least, like, I think that's why people love it. Not because it's like
it's really like it has some of the most exciting moments that I've read. Like it has really epic scenes. Like if somebody tells me it's one of their favorites and they're not like, you know, a friend like, you know, Theo, Rekindled Reader, that I just bug about it, I'm gonna be like, yeah, of course, I totally get why that's one of your favorite series. But it just like I just really needed it to be trimmed down into like just less running and fighting is the main thing.
I'm excited that people are doing the read along for it.
Yeah, and you know, I was just talking to Theo and RJ about it, and they're really loving the reread, which is awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, actually, Red Rising and The Golden Sun at the moment is giving me similar vibes as The Faithful and the Fallen. Obviously, it's very different settings, but that very fast-paced, exciting plot twists. Like, it's just very enjoyable to read. I know the later books apparently get incredible. But
Golden Sun has one of my favorite scenes I've read all year in it. I finished that chapter. I had like tears in my eyes, and then I went back and read that chapter. Wow. And I gave Red Rising 3 stars. So like I'm kind of on you. I have like the exact same opinion as you. It was like Red Rising was fine. Yeah. So nice to see you, Joao. I finished Seeds of War, who Joao Silva is the author of. And
are you going to say your honest opinion now?
Yeah, of course. I would. If I hated it, I wouldn't bring it up. Why would I do that? I thought it was a really, really good book. I liked it a lot. The characters were really interesting. You've read the book, right, too, Johan?
I have, I thought I have a copy here, but it's in my guest room.
Yeah, I just packed up my copy, but I did have it right here. But no, it was an excellent book. I really want to read
I really enjoyed it. It's well paced.
Yeah,
it's a good book.
Well, that's because we're introducing you to all these new books, Jadia. You're growing.
Yeah. I think
definitely.
If getting back to that DNF, I also think a reason why we DNF is because like our TBRs are so long. But like mentally, it's helpful to say actually I'll take this off my TBR.
Yeah,
I can just focus on the other 300 books on my list. And also I think most proper bookworms, they lack space. So it's helpful to say like, okay, I'm not gonna read this book, like officially say DNFing, and just give it away or sell it or whatever you want to do with it.
We were referencing Faithful and the Fallen.
I feel like my reading has definitely changed from when I was a teenager or child. When I was younger, I would have my favorite series, and I would just reread like sections of them. Like I wouldn't reread the whole book. I'd just be like, this is the few favorite chapters here, and I'd just go through those chapters. And like I might not even read the beginning and the end. I might just read those bits in the middle. Like those bits in the middle, I just go round and round in circles reading them, and then that doesn't really count as rereading the book. Like there are some books I'm like, how many times did I read this book? I don't even know. I might have just read the middle chapters a lot.
Yeah, I mean, have you found like since I started BookTube and reading way more fantasy, whenever like an average person or like a non-reader or something asks for a recommendation, I almost find it harder now to give recommendations. Because I'm just like, well, if you like this, then you could read this or whatever. Like, but they don't have that. Like, they haven't read much fantasy. So, I mean, I always end up just recommending Mistborn. But yeah, it's hard, I think, to recommend.
Mistborn is my go-to for people who think they like fantasy but haven't read much. Like I had like a coworker at work that's like he loved Harry Potter and he would just like reread Harry Potter and like he theoretically liked fantasy, like he watched a bunch of fantasy movies. And I was like, you should try Mistborn. And he read the first book and then loved it, and then I don't think he continued as of now. But that tends to be my like first recommendation too, because it's a really good entry point. I think
it's everyone on BookTube. I swear.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone recommends.
I mean, there's a reason for it, right? Like especially like there's obviously people who read a lot of fantasy and then read Mistborn and like it, but it's more common to read it near the beginning of reading fantasy and then love it. So
absolutely. Yeah, I haven't reread, like, it's one of the series that got me into fantasy, but it's been more than 3 years since I read it. So I literally wonder, like, if I went back now, I probably wouldn't rate it as highly as I do.
Yeah, for sure.
I still rated it really highly when I reread it a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, probably because I'd completely forgotten the ending and was like, oh, I've mixed together the endings of multiple books here.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. Especially when you read them like back to back and stuff.
I recently read Secret History. Oh, did you see my review, Kyle? Did you?
Yes. I got lumped in with a bunch of people heavily disagreeing with you, and then you responded to my comment, but it was to somebody else's comment. I was like, I'm just gonna leave it. But I totally get why you didn't like that, but I did. There's other stuff. What?
I just felt like what was the point of writing that novella?
Well,
like, in my head, it wasn't needed.
Where are you in Mistborn?
I read everything except like that 10-page short story in Arcane Unbounded.
Oh, you read like Era 2?
I read Era 2, yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You still think it's unnecessary. That's less common.
Yeah, I do get it, but I don't know. I think as I stated in my review, I think if I had read the trilogy and then like shortly after read Secret History and Mistborn Era 2, I would appreciate more. It's also like been 3 years, so like some of the events were a bit muffled and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's a big debate within the fandom. Actually, it's not a debate. It's like orthodoxy that you have to read Secret History after Bands of Mourning. And I heavily disagree. I don't think that you can't read it then or that it's not a good option. It's that I don't agree that you should read it then. Like, I think it depends on the reader. And so I've really tried to recommend to people, based on what type of reader they are, if they should read it right after the first trilogy or if they should read it after Bands of Mourning. And as of now, I have a 100% success rate recommending that, because I think if you're a more plot-driven reader that really likes exciting reveals and having your mind blown, I think you should read it after Bands of Mourning. Because then you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you get to figure out some stuff. But if you really like characters and you really like noticing all the little details of like within a story, I think right after the first trilogy is the best point, because then you're going to flow right into it and you're going to catch way more of what's going on. And I think it's going to have more resonance for you. Yeah. And so far I've been corrected when I recommend that to people, but I'm sure I'll get it wrong at some point.
Yeah. Okay, I have a spicy take, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But I have felt a bit that the more everything is becoming connected in the Cosmere, the less I am enjoying it. Because I really enjoy the fact that you can just pick up a series and read it on its own. But it's almost come to the point, a bit like the MCU, but like you can't go to the cinema and watch an MCU movie because you have to watch like 3 series and read 10, watch 10 movies or whatever. And I don't know, I think that was the last book in era 2. Like I did really enjoy it, but it felt very much like
It
you
didn't feel
Okay.
like
had
it
to
had
read.
an
I
ending.
have tons of thoughts about this. When so I'm moving into a house right away, and then I'll have my my setup back. This is one of the first videos that I'm gonna make, so I have lots of thoughts. I'm gonna let Abby talk first, and then I'm gonna tell you what I think.
I was really, really enjoying Lost Metal until I
I
got
gave it
towards
4
the
stars, I
end.
think. I did enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah, like I was enjoying it until I got to the end, and I was enjoying all the connections that we were getting, like the little Easter eggs coming throughout. But I thought because it felt like such a Cosmere novel at the end, it didn't feel like the ending was very satisfactory because I felt as though there was so much more potential for us to see these characters later on. Whereas when Mistborn Era 1 wrapped up, it felt like this is the end of these characters and their journey. Whereas I feel as though we might see some of the Era 2 characters in further installments.
Yeah, we definitely will.
I don't know
And
if
that's why it didn't feel so satisfying to me because I was like,
I
this
agree.
feels.
The ending of the Lost Metal does not feel like an ending for those characters, but I also know that Era 3 is skipping like 60 years. I don't think we'll see none of them again, but I do think that is the end of a lot. So I do think so. A lot of times people mash criticisms together and then they don't actually listen to what a particular person is saying. I agree that the Lost Metal suffered from trying to be too much of a Cosmere novel. I definitely agree with that. Because exactly, it's setting up a lot of stuff. It's showing up characters that weren't around previously to try and set up Era 3. And at the expense of that, you're not finishing off the arc with these characters as well. But I do think people get in their head about this a lot. I don't think it matters nearly as much as people think. It matters how you come into it, because I think the comparison to the MCU has ultimately harmed this series, especially with people's current opinions on the MCU.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people hate the
So
MCU
like
now,
3 years ago, it wasn't like this.
yeah. So I do think that leaks over because people are now like, so here's what happens. I think the Lost Metal suffers from, honestly, all of the Marvel movies being not as good lately. I think it's a direct
Bad timing, maybe.
correlation, because people now are getting tired of all of these movies they have to see that aren't very good, that they then have to do. So then they go and they read the Lost Metal, and there's a part that they don't really understand. And instead of just going, oh, like, I don't get this part, like it's a reference I don't get, and moving on, they're already pre-primed to be annoyed by it, being like, oh, like more things where I don't understand. Like, so I do think that's had a big impact, like the declining public opinion of MCU and connected stories.
Yeah.
I don't think the Cosmere references in the later books are as big as people think they are. Like,
No.
if you count them, I like, there is physically a lot of them, but in terms of how much you would notice if you had never read the other stuff, I just don't think it's that much. Stormlight is my litmus test for this. There's so many other references in Stormlight to other books, and people read Stormlight like that's his most popular series, and they never read other stuff. We're in this circle where people read everything all the time. We're huge book nerds, and we read everything. We read Mistborn Secret History. Do you know how many people have not read Mistborn Secret History? Most of the Cosmere fans. Yeah. And so I think we lose perspective a little bit about how much this stuff actually matters. Not to say that people that think it's getting too far aren't valid to think that way. Like, you're obviously allowed to be like, I would prefer it to be less connected. But I think we're just more in our heads about it than we would be otherwise.
Yeah. No, I think that you made some... Yeah, so go on, Abby.
I was going to say, I haven't read them yet, but the secret projects, how much do they stand alone, do you feel?
Totally. So not totally. I mean, there are references. There's actually, it's funny because I've seen some booktubers get upset. I'm one of them. Petrick is one. I know Bookborn's one. That there are some people saying you should not read the third secret project without reading Rhythm of War, and it's like patently absurd. And I think it's harmful for people to say that, because then there's people who would read this like perfectly. Have you read it yet, Johan?
I haven't, no.
Okay. I read. So I mean, I wouldn't spoil anything anyway, but I just wanted to see if you agreed with me. But there's literally one reference that a character makes in the third one that is just like, it's as if somebody was like, oh, one time I broke my leg, and then they move on, and they broke their leg in Rhythm of War. Like, that's not what the event is, but it's referencing a thing that happened to them in Rhythm of War. And if you just read that without reading Rhythm of War, you'd be like, okay, this guy one time broke his leg, like whatever. But people were like, but that spoils Rhythm of War. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. So Cosmere fans piss me off, if you can tell.
Well, I saw some of me and Patrick were talking about some of the comments on the name and revealing the name of the book being such a big issue.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Christopher, keep going, but also trying to get people's opinions out of your head on this. Like, just enjoy it for what it is. It's not going to blow your mind, but it is a very fun book. And the magic system tutorials do stop. You'll I mean, not totally, but they get a lot less. Yeah, Anita, I'm helping out our European friends. They're having fun on their evening time.
But yeah, I think you made a really valid point with the multiverse fatigue, MCU, and stuff like that. Because it's so true. Like, because I was never a massive superhero fan actually ever, but like MCU, like I have zero interest in any of that.
Yeah, it got to the Avengers. What was the final one called? Endgame. And I was like, right, that's it, done. That's me sort of like done with this. And then it's kept going, and I've just not kept going.
Yeah. The only, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is excellent. Like, very, very good. Like, one of the best Marvel movies ever. But other than that, like, they've been like fine to actively bad mostly. So, and I keep letting myself, I was like, Black Panther 2 is not going to let me down. And then I was watching Black Panther 2. I was like, I think this is kind of dumb. And then my wife next to me is like, this is kind of dumb. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not just me. So, you know, I think they just need to slow it down, maybe. I don't know. Or just like take more time in between movies.
It's so much, isn't it? But yeah, but like that's also a hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take as a fantasy reader, but I've never really been a massive fan of superhero movies. I mean, I was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But like in the last 15 years, I have enjoyed very, very few superhero movies. And it's just not my thing.
Yeah, that's fair. And a lot of them, if you don't like them, they're going to be very samey. Like, I do like superhero movies, but they're not like, it's the amount of movies I go see in the theater. You'd think that I am a huge fan, but it's mostly just like, it's a cool movie to see in theaters kind of deal.
Yeah. There's always best. But I did enjoy The Batman by Robert Pattinson.
I haven't watched that one yet. I've heard it's really good.
I thought it was brilliant. It was just so dark and gritty and felt very different and real. Like the consequences felt real, which I often feel like with superhero movies, like there's no real stakes. I mean, the superhero isn't going to die.
Yeah, I agree. And the few that do kind of buck that trend, those are the memorable ones.
Yeah, that's very true.
Shadia, you're not gonna meet Wayne. How could you just not have interest in Era 2, the middest of the series?
I don't blame you. Yeah.
This is a hot take right here that Shad has. He says, I don't like Red Rising. I stopped after Golden Sun.
Well, we are aligned.
Did you stop after Golden Sun too?
No, I finished the series and then...
I have Abby's copies. Those are the ones I'm reading from.
Listen, we need to talk about how Abby is like trying to meet every booktuber because she's just going around the world meeting everybody. I met Abby last month way over here in Canada, and she is too tall. I was not expecting it because you never expect people to be taller than when they're on. And she's like an average. She's not like a behemoth, but I was just like, whoa.
I am tall.
She's like, walk it back. I am tall.
I met Bookborn last year at FantasyCon. And
yeah, the two of you are the two who met
very
everybody.
Short.
I know. She talks about it all.
I was like, you're way shorter than I expected. But like she always sits quite close to the camera, so you only see like her face.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally just been invited to a London booktube meetup in August. So I
haven't been invited, or unless it was the one with Ben.
I don't know.
I've been invited to another one.
She's like, I can't invite you. Sorry, man.
Don't invite me.
There's a lot of you guys in like England and especially like Europe, even if like people take trips to England.
It's so much easier to travel from here to London than America's just so massive.
Yeah, there's basically nobody close to me besides Andy Smith. And Andy Smith has decided to be a politician.
Yeah.
My wife is calling me, and I don't know why she would be. So I'm just gonna
Put
stop for a
yourself on
second. You
mute.
guys talk amongst.
Bye, Kyle. Man, but like
How
I
tall is
get.
too tall? Well, I'm 5'10", so
Yeah. I don't know what I am in English standards. We use centimeters where I'm from.
I think I'm like 178.
178. No, you're taller than that. Surely. Let me see.
Yeah, 178.
Really? Let me see.
Oh no, wait, that's yeah.
I'm 5'7" according to Google. This says 178.
Yeah.
Well, I must be wrong. It says 178 is 5.8. Okay, I don't know. If people are watching, this is not a very interesting. I'm 173 or something centimeters. So.
And then supposedly Kyle's being cancelled.
He has been cancelled. But I do get like if you love a battle royale kind of story, then you don't get that for the rest of the Red Rising series. But did you enjoy Red Rising, like the first book?
I think I gave them all like 3 stars. I read them 10 years ago now, maybe.
Oh wow! So literally when they came out.
Yes, like when Morning Star was coming out was when I was reading them.
Wow, that's cool.
And I think I found them all okay. Like I haven't found them especially memorable. Like people talk about scenes, and I'm like, that is completely.
I don't remember anything.
I was like, I don't remember that. It's gone. So I could not really comment on it and say exactly. I disliked it because of this. It was just I found it very middling.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Not every book or series works for everyone. I did also, when I met you back, I don't even know when that was, like a year ago. You also, I think you gave it for free, the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K.
Oh yeah,
Jemisin.
I threw that in there.
Or maybe I bought the first book and you gave me the other 2 for free or something. But yeah, I only read the first book, the 5th season. Is that what it's called? Yeah, it just didn't work for me.
I have officially been approved for a house, yo.
Whoa!
Yeah, she just called because the bank called her and said we got approved. So I'm officially buying a house.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Have you placed a bid on it?
Yeah, like we placed a bid already, and then we had to do the inspection and do all the lawyer stuff, and then we were waiting for our approval, and we thought that we would get approved, but like it's official now. So
amazing! Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you guys.
How exciting!
What were you guys talking about while I was gone?
Are you gonna have a room
talking about hyped series that we are not massive fans of. So for me, I was saying about Red Rising being pretty middling for me, and then we moved on to the 5th season, which we both again found.
Oh, you guys are just haters, one and all. Like,
I never said I hated the 5th season.
I know, I'm just kidding. Abby came to the other coast than you. Like, it wasn't you were far, Anita.
We're probably closer to I'm probably closer in London to the east coast of Canada than when I was on the west coast of Canada.
Well, she was in Ontario, so maybe not, but it was far.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just catching up on all this stuff. How people are just mad that I didn't tell them. Okay. Yeah, so I really, really liked the 5th season a lot. I think that book was incredible. And then I did not like the sequels nearly as much. I do think it ended well. Did you guys finish the whole trilogy or just the first one?
Just the first book.
Yes, I finished it.
And what did you think about the whole trilogy, Abby?
Middling.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, no, I thought it was very unique.
I should have just stopped.
You should have, yeah. I think lots of people should stop after the first one. Like, some people love it, like all the way through, but there's a lot of people when they read the first one and the way they talk about it, I'm like, you should pack it in. You're good.
Yeah, because I was considering continuing, but people said like the first book is the highlight of the series, so that made me convinced I wouldn't want to continue.
There's like one specific way that I would recommend to somebody if they read the first book and didn't really like it, but they should continue. But like to say what that reason would be a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say it. But most of the time, I would say pretty confidently, if you don't like that first book, DNF, which I don't say for that many series, but I do think that that's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That depends on if Johan is going to join us. Is he going to finish Deadhouse Gates, or is he
no.
going to? Yes, we will be finished. July was really hard for us to schedule a live stream, so we're not doing it till August. And we probably will not start House of Chains until the fall. We both kind of needed a break, but we'll see how it goes. In my mind, I want to finish half the series this year, so I would like to finish up to Midnight Tides, but we will see how it goes. Scheduling lives with people that are busy is sometimes, takes a while. So
yeah, definitely.
Man.
Tell me, Kyle, what do you love about Malazan?
So, okay, here's the thing. I am in the middle ground between
now,
no, I'm really not. So I'm in the middle ground. I feel like I am a
middle ground.
You're not gonna read
3,000-4,000 pages of a series that you're middle on.
Oh no, I'm not. I think it's good, but there's people that think it's trash, and I consider you amongst these people trash. Then there's people that are like, Deadhouse Gates, bro, literally beamed me up like in Star Trek, and I've discovered compassion, and the world was changed, and the volcanoes of my mind burst with new theories of life and wonder, and I am now going to write physics books on how. And I'm like, guys, can we pull it back? It's a good series. So I have not reached the Malazan cult level, and if you guys are in the Malazan cult level, people watching this, I appreciate you. I'm glad you're passionate, but no, I really like Malazan. I think the plot is so cool. I think his characterization is really good, although it leaves a lot in between pages. So it requires a lot of work, and that's where I find, like, I don't have any trouble keeping the lore straight. Some people have a lot of trouble with the lore. For me, the reason Malazan takes me longer to read is that his characterization is basically a person does this, and then a chapter later they do this, and they say this, and you have to kind of make the inferences as to what's going on psychologically with them. And that just takes a lot of mental energy. So I really have to read it pretty slow. But no, I really like Ericsson's prose. His thematic work is so good. I like a lot of his characters, and I just think the plot and the lore and the history of the world is so cool. Like, the only negatives I have for the series so far after 3 books is I think Ericsson is bad at romance. He's just not good at it. Fight
is
me, anybody.
Worse than Robert Jordan, though?
No. I specifically, when I finished Memories of Ice, I was like, nobody is worse than Robert Jordan, but I also don't think Steven Erikson is good.
Oh my God. Have you read Wheel of Time, Abby?
No.
Is that one of those series you hate as well?
No, I've not read it. And Patrick told me that I wouldn't like it, so I've trusted Patrick.
Oh, in Patrick we trust.
It's a very. I also agree you will not like it.
I feel like it's a very big commitment,
Robert Jordan,
and I'm not committed to that many books.
You could just skip the middle like me.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think that's a series I can safely say that you will not enjoy. So, and Robert Jordan's biggest weakness, and I think he has several, is that he is very bad at romance. I've never met anybody that defended his romances. Like, nobody. Like,
no.
Everybody's like, this is terrible, but the rest is good.
No. You can't defend it. It is so ridiculously bad. And I won't say anything because of spoilers, but that romance at the end.
The end, I literally, I knew about it ahead of time. It had been spoiled for me, and I was like, okay, I'll just make my peace with it. But out of nowhere it comes, I was like, I actually cannot rate this book 5 stars. Like, I have to, like, it's terrible.
Oh, did you watch season 1?
I did.
Are you going to watch season 2?
Probably, but not enthusiastically. So I think season 1 had a lot going against it. It was during COVID. They had an actor leave. There's a pathway for them to have a redeeming season 2. I don't think they're going to, but there's a pathway. So I'm going to give them one more chance, and we'll see how it goes.
I 100% agree with that assessment. I will definitely watch it. And also my wife, she literally just finished a whole series. So we're definitely going to have lots of discussions. But I think
I
he already
disagree, Rogue.
mentioned.
I do not agree. Oh, sorry. Erickson writes great friendships. Sorry, I was in Robert Jordan mode. I was like, Robert Jordan does not write great friendships.
Yeah, no, maybe not. But I think Rafe Judkins, the director of Real Time, he said that it's going to line up with the books in season 3, because he probably just like made a mess out of it in season 1. That like now he has to do stuff to make it work. So I don't know.
I don't trust Rafe. I think Brandon Sanderson is like one of the nicest people on this planet, and even he struggled to be nice about that show sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. Abby, what are some of your favorite adaptations of fantasy media?
Ooh.
Or worst, what do you think just like ruined something for you?
I weirdly don't watch loads of fantasy TV.
Same.
Or film. Like
Same.
my TV tastes differ from my reading tastes. That I very rarely read things that are in our modern world. Whereas when I'm watching TV or film, I am much more interested in the modern world.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think about what I feel like a good adaptation. Lord of the Rings, excellent adaptation.
I mean, that's the pinnacle for me.
That is the pinnacle.
Hobbit, no,
I mean,
not so.
Listen, I thought the first one was, reasonably good.
The
It should
Hobbit,
have been one movie.
It shouldn't.
I know.
It didn't need to be 3.
I would accept 2. I think 2 with some expanding out, like I could get it. 3 was just absurd.
But The Lord of the Rings are very, very good films.
How about Harry Potter? Harry Potter? Come on, you're British. You have to love it.
Yes. Got a big soft spot in my heart. That's, again, one of those books that I reread middle sections of as a kid. Or listened to the tapes through just the middle sections.
Tapes?
Yeah, tapes.
Wow. It's good. I never even finished Rings of Power. I only watched the first 2 episodes.
That's enough. You're good. Never go back. I was optimistic. Rings of Power.
I do want to watch it though. Like I think I'll wait.
I really don't think you should. Like, there's no reason to.
I'm still making my way to House of the Dragon. So
House of the Dragon is very good. But listen,
I've got 2 episodes left, and I will finish it.
Do you watch do you just watch really slowly, or is that like because you don't like the show?
So House of the Dragon, I watched 2 episodes in November. I watched 3 episodes on the way to Canada and 3 on the way back.
Oh, so you're like still pretty, like it was recent, except the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and now I still need to watch the last 2.
Yeah, Rings of Power is not good. I'll set it. But okay, so what I was gonna say is I've been like paying attention to like TV and movie news for like my whole since I was like 12. I like check movie news and all that stuff. So you notice trends over time, especially since streaming came in. A very important number is rate of retention.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say like, oh, because they'll always try and spin it. They'll be like, 75 million people watched The Witcher in the first 9 minutes that it was released. Or like they'll try and hype you with the numbers, but then later on they'll be like, but there's an 80% or like whatever.
Yeah.
Rings of Power only had 70% drop off from like I think the second episode to the finish, which is unprecedentedly bad. Like if that show was anything else they had not sank billions of dollars into, they would have been canceled immediately for that low of a completion rate because it shows that people were not finishing it. So skip it.
It was just so slow. Like the world was beautiful, and it's just like after 2 hours, like the first 2 episodes, an hour each. After 2 hours, I was just like, nothing has happened almost. And
stuff starts happening, but then you hit a different problem, which is that the stuff that starts happening is stupid. So
stupid.
It's really dumb. There's you should look up the scene on YouTube, both of you, even if you haven't watched the show, Abby, of just Galadriel on a horse. I think that sums up. It's like 30 seconds of her on a horse, and I'm just like, no.
That's funny. Well, when I was a kid, one of my favorite adaptations were the Narnia movies.
Yeah, I really like those.
Yeah, I love them.
I remember watching there was like an old one before they did the re-releases, which I really liked, of the Narnia ones.
Oh yeah, my wife has watched those, but yeah.
But yeah, the new ones are, well, they're not even new anymore.
Everybody agrees you guys should watch these horse scenes.
Man, can't we look it up now? Galadriel horse scene.
Yeah, it's not very long. I think it's like GIF level length. Are you looking it up now?
Let me see. Can I present? Let's see if I have permission. Dun, dun, dun. Hey.
Oh, I can present. I don't know how to. Oh, here you go. Okay.
It must be this.
Yeah. This is during a really intense scene where she's trying to go places.
This isn't slowed down.
No, this is what's in the show.
It's like the advert, is it Lloyd's TSB?
This is longer than I thought it was.
Nice.
There's an advert for a bank with a horse galloping for ages.
Yeah. So that's not even that's the scene that has been memed. There are a lot of scenes like that. Like a lot. Like if I said 15 scenes of like a slow motion person on a horse, I probably am not exaggerating much. It's really strange.
How about, have you watched The Witcher?
I watched the new season.
I haven't watched anything of it. And people say that all the seasons are confusing. Like the
season 1 is confusing to the point I think it's bad TV. I think it's poorly made.
They needed to make it clearer about the timelines.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where they did not try to make anything line up until they did their twist. And it was poorly done, like actively. And then season 2, I don't find that confusing. It has some scenes where I'm like, this is not as important as you guys are probably making it out to be. But season 2 was a better experience for me. I don't think it was like amazing. And then I'm not watching season 3 because I do not like. The reason Henry Cavill left is because he was like, hey, I want this to be, respected. And then the showrunner just kept being like, I hear you, but what if we just didn't respect it at all? And I actually don't like the books. So I would like a lot of changes from the books. But the point is that Henry Cavill specifically signed up. This is very important to him. And she's just like ruining this thing he loves in front of him. I mean, this is conjecture, but it seems pretty clear that's what's going on.
Yes.
And that's why he left. And I'm just like, I don't know. Yes, I agree with Mike. The first episode of season 2 is excellent. I really like that episode. It has the guy who plays Tormund from Game of Thrones in it. It's very good.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah, I only read The Last Wish and I didn't enjoy it. So
have you read it?
I have not read The Witcher, no.
That's another series you won't like.
Yeah, a lot of people say the first book is the best. I'm not sure if that's correct. Or I don't know if it's like something with the translation, but there's just, I don't know, I know it's a short story collection, but just, I don't know, I didn't find any of the short stories interesting.
If you didn't like the short stories, I honestly don't know that you'll like anything. I read 4 books, and the shorts, like the first short story collection is the only one I really liked.
Yeah, and that's what people tell me. Like,
yeah.
If you didn't enjoy the short story collections, don't continue. So I probably won't.
It's stuff off your TBR though. Like, do you own the books?
I used to. I found the whole series in a charity shop for like £7, but yeah, I've given those away.
You always have such cool stuff for sale, and I'm just like, oh, I'm a whole ocean away from you. Like,
yeah,
the shipping's like $1,000. Like,
oh, yeah. I mean, book collecting in the UK is a dream. You have a Grim Oak and Subterranean Press if you're into very expensive books, but otherwise, like, yeah, Broken Binding and stuff.
Yeah, Broken Binding is so cool. I really want the Samantha Shannon series, the Roots of Chaos, I think is the name of the series.
Yeah.
Even the traditional hardcovers of those look gorgeous, but the Broken Binding edition is just next level.
It is next level. Yeah, those are insane. Have you read Priory?
I haven't yet. No,
I've read them both.
And is it also middling?
No, I really liked Samantha Shannon.
I thought you? Well, okay. What is your opinion of Priory? Maybe I'm mixing you up with somebody else.
No, I did make a review
when I read it. When it came
gave
out.
5 stars.
I've given them both 5 stars. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's his way of saying he disagrees with you heavily.
Yeah. No. Actually, it's one of those books. I do understand why people like it, but I don't understand why people absolutely love it. But I think the world building was incredible. The world building was, yeah, it was really, really phenomenal, which is why I want to read A Day of Full Night. I own it. I just need to read it. But it's just so long. But
yeah, I got an arc for that book because I was like, it's a prequel. I can just read it first. First of all, I didn't know how long it was. Like I knew it would be long, but it's really
so
long.
Yeah,
and then second of all, a bunch of people who read it were like, oh, like it's just, it doesn't provide as much context as reading Priory, so you should probably read it second. And I was like, okay, I guess I won't prioritize it. So I haven't read it yet, but I do own them both. So
yeah. There you go. As I said, I think the world building is phenomenal. So that's why I want to read A Day of Full Night. But Priory, I mean, it's just yeah, middling. Middling is a good word. I'll use that.
Abby's offended. You guys are gonna fight next time you see each other.
No, it wasn't bad, and I do get why people love it.
What do you guys think you look for the most in books? Like if you had like a tier system, the most important thing to you in a great book, like separates good from great.
It's in a language I can read.
That's a good answer. I mean, it's kind of a shit answer, but it's a great answer.
I mean, I think characters is very important for me.
Yeah.
So I have to care for the characters. And like the more I read, which is a bit weird, like it's not the most important thing, but I've come to appreciate writing style more and more the more I read. So that's often definitely something that I'll give some like brownie points if I really enjoy the writing style. But yeah, characters and pacing is a whole subject, like what is good pacing. But if it's very inconsistent, if I don't feel like I'm being rewarded as I read through a book, then it's not going to be a 5-star read.
Abby?
I feel like I like a balance of lots of elements.
Yeah, it is.
I
feel as though it's hard where I'm like, I think I am a character-driven reader because a lot of critiques when I don't enjoy a book is because I haven't connected with the characters. But
lesson.
But then plot also definitely does have its value, and world building. I really like a good world. I think some books fall flat when I feel like the world doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like I can be like, I want to feel as though the world is a real place and the characters feel real. So yeah. I feel as though I need all of the elements.
Yeah. So the way that I kind of think of it is like, I think of it as like the book is sitting on 4 pillars. And the pillars are
really thought about this.
Yeah, no, I have. So it's sitting on 4 pillars, and it's the 4 pillars are character, plot, world, and character, plot, and writing. And if 1 or 2 of those pillars are a little bit weaker, it's still going to stand up. It's still going to have structural integrity. But if you have, it doesn't matter how great your characters are. If your writing is terrible, or not good, or I don't like it, then it's too imbalanced. The whole thing is gonna collapse. And so that's kind of how I think about it, where it's like I need at least a consistent level, but I think character is like the number one, like the thing that I've always been that way. I've always really been drawn to characters.
Yeah, because that is like, you can kind of forgive like, oh, maybe the world isn't fleshed out that well, but that can happen later on. But like if you read like 200 pages and like the character doesn't make any sense. Like I read a book this year. I don't want to mention the name of it, but like this character literally goes through one of the most traumatic events I've ever come across ever. And like the character's just okay and goes on an adventure. And I'm like,
I hate that.
You just saw everyone that you love being slaughtered, and now you just go on an adventure. It's like,
that's known as the faithful and the fallen effect.
Yeah, true. A lot of people die though.
Yeah. See, so that kind of stuff really bothers me because it's very easy to at least include lip service. Like I understand if you want a fast plot, you can't have your characters wallowing in like, oh no, my friend died 2 books ago. I understand that brings down the pacing, but even just like the occasional mention of the fact that they've seen like their friends die or they're traumatic, whatever it might have happened. I that is really important to me because otherwise they don't feel like real people. They feel like somebody needs to push a story forward.
Yeah. I blame also Robin Hobb for like making me more critical when it comes to character work.
Yeah. Did you just read Fool's Errand, or did you read the whole trilogy, right?
No, I read Tournament. I'm basically, because I'm enjoying it so much, I'm trying to read only one of the series per year. So yeah, it's gonna take another 2 years before I get to the end of the Realms of the Elderlings. But I really don't want it to end too soon. So,
Abby, have you finished Hob? Started Hob?
I read Assassin's Apprentice 5 years ago and never continued.
Yeah.
And have been kicked out for that opinion.
I actually did that, and I was like not 100% sure it wouldn't kick you out permanently. So as I did it, I was like, wait, maybe this is a mistake. But I'm like, oh, you're good.
If you're looking for a faithful and the fallen kind of story, you won't find it in the Realms of the Elderlings.
About what was it, like 2017, before Hob had her like booktube moment, I was like, and this is before I had a channel or anything, I was like, I'm gonna make Hob my thing, because I saw them in the bookshops. I was like, they look great together. Hob is gonna be my thing. I'm gonna read all the books. It's gonna be great. And then I fell at the first hurdle with the first book. And now I do own Ship of Magic, and I do want to retry with Live Ship Traders, and hopefully I'll connect more to that because of it. It sounds like it's going to be more for me than.
I think you will really like Live Ship Traders.
I just haven't.
I don't know about the Fitz books, just because Assassin's Apprentice, he's very young. I think you still could read Royal Assassin and then really fall in love with it, but I don't know. But I think you will really like Live Ship.
Assassin's Apprentice at this point, I think. So I think I'm going to give Live Ships a try. I just don't know when, because there's just so many books on my TBR, and that book is long.
Man, Live Ship is so good. It's one of the best series ever. Man, it's incredible.
Yeah, Live Ship, I think is my favorite trilogy of all time. It's either that or Greenbone, maybe. I don't know, but I really, really like Live Ships. I agree with Matt here, though, even though I have not read it yet. The Year of Rainwild Chronicles is quite a.
I've heard that those aren't that good.
I don't know. I'm not saying that for my opinion, but I just feel like.
I've heard something about like the publisher, like originally it was supposed to be like a duology or something, or trilogy, and they intentionally split it into more books than it was supposed to, just sell more books. I don't know if that's true. But
yeah, I think it was supposed to be a trilogy, but maybe a duology. I don't know, but 2 of the books were definitely split. Like they were supposed to be 1 and they were split. Jimmy has a great question here, which is, what do you think about the fact that readers seem to weigh characters so heavy when literary critics never evaluate character work? Ooh. I find the separation very interesting.
This sounds like a topic for Bookborn.
Well, they have lots of intense discussions. This is probably something that they'll discuss at some point.
I think it's kind of related to why I don't enjoy classics often. Like classics are almost always praised for thematic analysis and what they're saying about humanity and our world and so on. And like, yeah, that is so true, but I just really enjoy it. So, but yeah.
That's something that I don't read for themes.
Yeah. I appreciate if they're handled well, but like if the characters just suck, then
yeah.
There are definitely people that are very thematic readers and read and get very excited about the themes they see in books. And I'm like, I can appreciate a theme, and I can think themes can be very great for discussion, but I don't find enjoyment in reading about themes.
No, I really enjoy when there's good characters and good themes. But yeah, I'm not going to read. Like the reason why I stay away from like classic sci-fi mostly is just because it's infamous for having like very flat characters, but amazing analysis of themes and technology and stuff like that. And yeah, it needs to be more than just thematic analysis. But do you have anything to add to Jimmy's comment?
What do you think about the fact?
Are you reading it, Abby?
Yeah, I'm just I'm thinking it through.
Okay, well I
feel like I don't really read literary critics' opinions.
That's what I was going to say. Is that I don't tend to engage with them.
Yeah, I think booktubers are definitely not literary critics. Well, maybe Jimmy is.
We have Jimmy and Bookborn over here, and we have the rest of our schmoes.
Oh, and Philip Chase.
I feel
and
I can't really comment.
There's plenty of.
I feel as though I can't really comment on what literary critics are talking about because I don't read enough of what they say.
But that is a very, very interesting, question. Send it to Bookborn, Jimmy. I'm sure she would do like a 50-minute essay and read journals about it.
But then I guess there's so many different things. Like critics can rate something and not rate it very well, but it can be the biggest selling, most popular thing.
True. That's very true. Okay, go on, Kyle.
It's okay. I interrupt people all the time. I really try not to interrupt people. It's a flaw. So my thoughts on this is that just not having read specific critics specifically ignoring character work, I wonder if this is more the way, like, the academy is not the right word, but just like how reading trends differently over time. I think readers, like, obviously there's still thematic readers and people that really appreciate themes, but I think as society has gone, we tend to focus more on character in books these days. Like, if you even just look at books from, like, you're talking classic sci-fi, but you're talking about even like older fantasy. It's not that there aren't great characters there. They are, but the psychic distance on those characters tends to be a lot further because the work is exploring different things. And as time has gone on, the psychic distance on characters has really changed. A lot of modern books have really close psychic distance. Like, if you think of Sanderson basically just is super close. Everything his characters think, to an absurd level sometimes. Sometimes they'll just verbalize, like, maybe I'm angry because I'm sad that there's, like, just things that they wouldn't do as a person. So I could see critics not evaluating character work as much because they've grown up in a system, especially in, like, more literary circles, where the way they discuss books is more about themes and prose and even, like, plot to a smaller degree, but mostly themes and prose. And so they're not as trained to take in character work. And so it's not something that they value, because for a lot of readers that I talk to, they won't evaluate themes very well. Like, they'll tell you all the things they liked about a book, but then when you talk about a theme in the book, they're just like, oh yeah, like, I guess so. Like, they just didn't even consider it. So I think it's just kind of a training of how you read stuff, and maybe it'll change over time.
I also wonder if there is, I think, more of a mixture now in what person the book's written, if it's first person, second, third person. I may be generalizing here, but I feel as though the more modern reader will find a mixture of third and first person books with some second thrown in there. Whereas when I'm thinking about classics and older works, they're more traditionally in third person. Would you agree?
I
don't think
not
there's
necessarily.
I'm trying to think about first person older books. And I feel as though a first person narrative. I feel as though a first person narrative might give you a closer character insight.
Yeah. I do think fantasy, especially, like, I know we're talking outside the lens of just fantasy, but fantasy especially was pretty much one or two different types of things. Like, in terms of, like, you had, the third person farm boy, or like first person. I mean, I guess pop. I don't even know older works that are first person. I'm sure they're out there though. And I've always felt like the literary world has been a bit more experimental. Third person was pretty popular, but I mean, I'm reading East of Eden right now, which is phenomenal and actually has very good character work, like very, very good character work. And it's by John Steinbeck, if anybody doesn't know. And that book is told kind of like a first person retrospective almost. It's somebody narrating a story about their family. And so it's told, it's like, Charles went here, Adam did this, Adam felt this way. But he also talks about, like, my brother, my family. So that's something that's less likely to happen in fantasy, like, as opposed to more of like a literary side, because fantasy tries to box itself in.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
I know Jimmy says he's not a literary critic, but, like, all his reviews are always about like the prose and writing style. He always mentioned it. So,
Laura, have you read anything, like, what have you read of Steinbeck besides, like, his long ones? Like, did you read Of Mice and Men? That book is excellent.
I swear, everyone in the UK has read Of Mice and Men. You haven't read it, Abby?
I haven't read it.
No, because I haven't either, but, like, we didn't read it.
So pretty much everybody in my school did Mice and Men, and my English class did Lord of the Flies. But everybody else, all the hundreds of other people, did Mice and Men.
Wow.
Did you read anything else? Fantasy Watch. I keep switching between using your real name and your screen name. I don't know what you prefer, but because first of all, Of Mice and Men is good, so you're objectively wrong. But it is a certain vibe. Like I could see not liking that and then liking something else from him, but I don't know. Not everybody's for everybody. And yes, this is also Matt had a good point here with the first Black Company book is the oldest fantasy book he's read in his first person.
We were discussing Black Company. It's one of the few books I DNF'd this year. Oh, I know Jimmy has also read Black Company. He's currently reading it.
Yeah, he's loving it.
Yeah, he is.
I need to read the third book soon.
Maybe I should just go to book 2.
You know, Laura, I understand the impulse. I do think his books are great, but I will say I hated Catcher in the Rye so much that I will never read another book by J.D. Salinger. So I get it. It doesn't matter if everybody I know is like, this other book by J.D. Salinger is great. I'm like, Catcher in the Rye almost ruined my life. So I'm never reading this author. So I get it. I get it.
Ruined your life? What?
I don't even remember the 10th grade. It's all a blur.
Oh,
I had to read that book. Actually, so I just read Barney's version by Mordecai Richler. And it's one of the books that booktubers recommended me. Sarah recommended it. I did not like it at all. But I actually think it's a good book. Like, I get why she would have recommended it to me and thought that I would have liked it, because it's like a psychological study of this like very unhinged kind of dude. But it just reminded me too much of Catcher in the Rye, and I'm irrational about that book.
Trauma.
Did you end up liking any books you guys were forced to read in high school or grade school?
You know what we read during A-levels? We read and analyzed The Hobbit. How lucky was I?
Did you like it when you had to do that?
Yeah, I loved it.
Awesome.
I just think also the thing that we analyzed it made it more enjoyable. And it was literally right before the first movie came out. So as a class, we went and watched the movie straight after. Like, yeah, I definitely have fond memories. Really enjoyed Animal Farm, which made me read 1984, which is one of my favorite classics ever. It's probably my favorite classic.
Quite a few of the classics that I liked are ones that I chose to read myself. Like I really liked Jane Eyre, 1984, more so than potentially the ones that I was forced to read in school. I liked A Room with a View by E.M. Forster, which I was made to read.
I haven't read that many classics, to be honest. And if someone says this book is a classic, I usually feel like I don't want to read it.
Yeah,
like it's very.
I'm trying to get better with it because I have found some I really like. Oscar Wilde, Picture of Dorian Gray, amazing. Like I love that book.
That's another one that I read myself outside of.
And did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. I did not expect to. I read it because I was like, oh, it's one of those important books, and I just really was blown away.
Wow.
But I think school really just forces people into like. It's like something about the process of forcing them to read like these old dry books makes them just like not like them.
Yeah.
And there were some awful ones I had to read in school, like Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Darkness is terrible.
Heart of Darkness. Madame Bovary, that was awful. Hated that one.
I don't even know what Madame Bovary is.
Oh, it's basically about this French woman that just wants to sleep with everybody. And then poisons herself.
Sounds riveting.
Because somebody doesn't like her.
Sounds like a wonderful book.
Yeah.
Sorry to anybody that wanted to read Madame Bovary.
As soon as I said Heart of Darkness, like, sucked, the viewers went from 14 to 9. And I was like, 5 people just got really mad.
Really? Heart of Darkness?
I don't know. Interesting. I have not read Flowers of Algernon, but I hear it's very emotional. Maybe reading it in the school setting. Maybe you just shouldn't read books in school, Laura.
Fahrenheit 451 I also enjoyed.
Yeah, I read that on my own. That was really good.
I haven't read that.
So now that you guys have been on BookTube for a while, Abby, how long have you been on BookTube?
3
years?
Yeah.
Yes. And you wouldn't know it to look at us, but Johan and I started around the same time. And one of us is extremely successful and makes really interesting videos. That's really cool. And then the other one of us is named Johan. So, but yeah, like, what do you guys?
I agree with that one.
Uh,
I
what do you
remember
guys think
I think the
of?
first time I saw you on BookTube was when you joined the Ken Liu interview with Bookborn. I was like, who is this guy?
We already knew each other then.
Did we?
Yeah, I just wasn't. That was my first time on BookTube, but
Oh yeah.
we
The
were
first
like
time. Oh
friends
yeah.
on Instagram. But that was before you had a face reveal, so I was like,
Oh, okay.
maybe this is
There
just
you
some nerd in his basement, like.
go. This basement.
Yeah, that was a good time, that Ken Liu interview. And then like since then, Ken Liu has just taken off, and I
Exploded.
like to think it's me and Bookborns
Yeah,
solely us, nobody else.
man. I was I had access to the pre-sale of the Dandelion Dynasty, but the Bergen Binding. There's like super exclusive 300 copies.
Yeah,
Like
those are
people were
beautiful.
just like the ratings weren't that good on Goodreads and stuff, so I didn't purchase them, and I still regret it so badly, man. It's like, oh. And those are
Yeah.
worth way more now.
They should do another run of those. I know they talked about doing it, but I love those so much. They are so cool.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, hopefully it'll happen.
I'm trying to collect the UK editions of the books because the North American ones just piss me off. I have them all, and like I have the arcs of the last two, so like I'd obviously keep those.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But I really like the aesthetic of the UK ones.
Would you get the UK paperbacks now that they're all in paperback?
Yeah.
You can't get matching hardback sets, so
it's
unless
annoying.
you
So
go
I've
on
got
those
the
300
first.
copies.
Yeah, I've got the first two in paperback and then the second two in hardback.
Yeah.
You know what? I saw something insane online. So the Fourth Wing, Rebecca Yarros, everyone's raving about that book. So someone on Depop, so I messaged that person because I was like, I have something else to trade. But this person said, I'm looking for an arc of Fourth Wing. And she, I think so, she was willing to trade her Dandelion Dynasty set from the Bergen Binding, a lettered set, for an arc of Fourth Wing.
That's insane.
And I messaged her, I'm like, I have other stuff to trade, or I can like trade you stuff and pay money. She was like, no, that's the only thing I want, but I'll give you the whole set if you have an arc of Fourth Wing.
So I just have to track down an arc of Fourth Wing.
Yeah. I've been looking online, like, do I know anyone?
Message everybody. Yeah, the spines aren't matching in the US, but according to our man Petrick, Saga Press sent him an email or a letter or whatever and said that they were going to change it on the next printing. So
okay,
hopefully Petrick's power in exchange.
Power, unlimited power.
Yeah, honestly, those are so frustrating. I can't believe they did that.
The Fourth Wing hype is just insane.
Have you read it?
I have
read it.
I am going to read it.
It's good. It's a good book. It does not deserve the hype. Like it is. Now I did not know it was a fantasy romance when I read it, because I read an arc, but in a digital arc. Dang it. And the premise sounded cool, and it was an audiobook, so it's like I have more time to fit in audiobooks. And then when I requested it, it had a really high rating. So I was like, oh, this is interesting.
It still has a very high rating.
It has a very high rating. And I think it's a good book. Like, I don't think it's very readable. The plot is really good. I like the main character. There's a lot that I do like about it. And most of my problems with it are specifically that in the 75%, it just becomes smut. Like, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Here's the romance.
Okay. Yeah, so it just comes in full force near the end there, and I think I would have been more okay with it. It was like always kind of a romance, like more.
Wow.
But yeah. I don't get the hype, like for people being like, I sold my house and my children for this. Yeah, me too. 4 stars.
I think it was good. I think it was fun. I will read the second one. My only as someone that enjoys reading fantasy with a romantic subplot in it, is that as soon as characters get together, I get a bit bored. Because then it loses that sort of angst of will they, won't they? And she's now planning for this to be a 5-book series. And if they've already started getting together, I'm like, how are you going to drag this out over 4 books? You're going to drag it out.
I just sold this book for Jimmy.
Nice. Jimmy, let's read it together. The thing is,
I do think
the Fourth Wing has the same amount of ratings on Goodreads now than as Golden Sun. By Pierce Brown.
It's insane. It is insanely hyped.
And Golden Sun has been out for like 10 years. Fourth Wing, like 5 months.
It is insane, like how quickly it has exploded.
I mean, she has become a multimillionaire overnight. Like, her life must just be crazy at the moment.
I don't think yet. I think on her next book she will.
And I think
Because she probably had to earn out her contract for this one. So I think the next one will be a lot more profit margin. But who knows? Maybe she is by now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fun, and I do think like I enjoy a training academy. I feel as though it makes it for a fast-paced story where you're compelled to turn the pages. I enjoyed the dragons. Who doesn't love a dragon?
The dragons were great. That was a
Who
really good element of the book.
Yeah, and there was a good dragon. There was a good amount of dragon on the page. So I think that was all done well. But
I'm really glad I read it without knowing that it was a fantasy romance, because I just wouldn't have read it. And it was worth reading. Like, I am not upset that I read it. It's not going to become a genre that I turn to very often, but I like reading stuff that I wouldn't normally read. I don't know if I'll read the sequel. Like, I probably will at some point. But, like, I mean,
I'm actually probably going to wait and see what reviews say for the sequel.
Yeah, probably me too.
To be fair, if you want to reach a wider audience, we should go read more YA and smut and stuff. That's where
I'm turning into just a One Piece and Rebecca Yaros channel.
Imagine.
I just started my first manga, actually. I started Vinland Saga the other day.
I've never read a manga. How are you finding
I
it?
really want to get into it. Like, I've never had any like snobbery towards it. It's that they're so long and they're very expensive. And I don't really like reading them on my phone. I finally gave in. I'm reading Vinland Saga on my phone. So I'll probably read it pretty slowly. But I just always would go to like bookstores or like and look, and they're just not there. Like, they're very hard to find. I'm sure I could find them on like Amazon, but I want to find them used because they're expensive. And I just never find them. So
yeah, no, I'm not a snob either at all, but I feel around 0% motivation at the moment to pick one up, even though like people rave about it and love about it. I don't know.
Vinland Saga. That's like, dude, I think your brother's in that book.
Yeah, I'm probably in the book.
Are you in the Faroe Islands right now? Are you in London?
No, I'm back in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, but I have been this summer.
Yeah, I saw that you were there. That's why I asked.
Yeah. No,
it looks like a beautiful place.
It is
I'm
beautiful.
from boring Wisconsin, so actually Wisconsin's pretty nice, but not the same level.
I want to go to the States one day. I want to lose 20 pounds and then just go to America and get fat. Try all the food.
Well, I met Abby, and Abby was like, I was like, what's different about here? She's like, your guys' bread is too sweet. I was like, what? How is... Okay, I still can't conceptualize. I just imagine you guys eating like a moldy cracker, like just like
no, that's a very good thing. Understand. Like, it's hard to find bread in America that doesn't have sugar in it. I bake bread. There's no sugar in bread.
That's insane. That's the craziest shit you've said all day. Like, I don't understand. Now, I agree some bread is too sugary. Like, I eat it, I'm like white bread.
Like brioche and stuff like that. That is supposed to be a sweet bread, but
yeah, I mean, it also has butter on it and stuff too. So, but yeah, it's just funny.
Bread is literally it's yeast, flour, and water. That is it.
Sounds boring. Needs some sugar.
Oh,
I'm not gonna eat your hard, crusty. All I think of whenever you guys talk about this is that orc from Lord of the Rings. I ain't eat nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You haven't You're He hasn't eaten nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Maggoty bread. Oh no, I make a sourdough bread, so I have a.
Oh, I love sourdough. Yeah,
it is.
I don't know why we got on bread, but it just
we were talking about the differences between the UK and Canada, US. And the thing that I still will never understand is why your toilet cubicles don't go to the ground. Like,
yeah, we were all like, we agree this is a mistake.
And the tax, like, just include the tax in the price. Like, if it's $9.99,
well, that's a marketing. I understand why that's there. Yeah, I understand why that's there. It's stupid, but it's so something is you can say $8.99. The amount of people that I've seen be like, oh, that's $8, and they're like, oh, like I got this for $8, and then you look and it's $8.99. They actually got it for $9, but it's because they see the 8. you just think $8, and I do it too. It's just like it's a very easy manipulation trick for people to think they're spending less money. So if you include the tax, then it's going to be like, $9.21 or whatever, and then people aren't gonna. So
yeah, but if it's $9.21, then they would price differently because it's the same thing everywhere else in the world. Taxes are included in the prices, so the supermarkets they just adjusted. Like that is.
Does it still say 99 cents? Like
argument,
or like 99 pounds, or like what are the prices? Or is it just like $3, or is it like?
No, it's like $2.99. It's the same
Oh,
thing.
okay, but then so they just price their stuff less to make it to.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
or more.
Yeah, they could do that. They're just stupid, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we still have the same the numbers that work.
I get you. I get what you're saying. Then I don't know. Then they should just stop doing that because I agree it's annoying. Matt is defending the cubicles because he says it makes it obvious which stalls are occupied. If you try to open the door and there's a person in there, it's occupied. But maybe that is why they did it. I don't know.
Good way to check. No, man. Like I've been wanting to go to the States for a long time, and everyone just says like food, like barbecue and burgers and stuff, is just next level. It just tastes different, and I just want to go there, get diabetes, and die, and I don't care.
Yeah, I think I might have gained quite a bit of weight on my 2 weeks in Canada, and now I've had to be healthy, Abby, since getting back to London, which is where I am in the UK.
Yeah, like I went to Vancouver, which is where I met Abby and Jake Bishop and Theo from Rekindled Reader, and the food in Vancouver was excellent. And I specifically was like, I'm gonna have to eat seafood here because it's the coast, and I never ate seafood. I just kept getting distracted by other cool looking foods. So
you went for the lobster roll that I recommended, though, didn't you?
Oh yes, I did. Yes, that lobster roll is excellent. You're right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jess was super excited about that. I
know what you're talking about.
Vancouver is a city. It's on the coast. Now you know.
I'm talking about the food.
Oh. Yeah.
I know Vancouver. It's not like that. It's not about like I don't know.
Americans
you
don't
Viking,
know anything
you might
about
not have been educated in the far reaches of the world.
True.
Listen, I'm in Manitoba, which I know like UKers aren't going to know where Manitoba is. That's fine. Abby might because she had to fly over it. And then so Minneapolis is a major city in the States. I am directly 8 hours north of that city. I go to Minneapolis all the time, and then I'm like, I'm from Manitoba, which is a giant province 7 hours to the north of them. And they're like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, literally, it's directly north of you, not very far. It would be like not knowing what Scotland is. Like, I don't understand. Like, if you lived in Ireland, and like, I don't get it.
One thing that I used to find crazy, and it's also because I didn't understand how big America was, but like the fact that a lot of Americans, they never leave their state ever.
Yeah.
Like, because Europe, I mean, it's so small compared to like, you can so easily just, like in a day, you can literally go to like 3 countries if you have a car, like easily just drive through a bunch of countries.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. Canada's so big. One time in the States,
Canada's massive as well.
I did 3 countries in a day, 4 countries in like 3 days this year for work. Like England, flew to France, went to Andorra, went to Spain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. I wish I could do that. One time we were traveling to Arizona in the States, and we had to go through Texas, and we started in Texas, and I was like 10 years old. So we were driving in Texas, and I fell asleep for the whole, for 7 hours, like a long time. And I woke up, and everything looked exactly the same. Like it's like I just closed my eyes for a second, and I was like, "Oh, what state are we in now?" And my dad's like, "Texas." And I'm like, "That's insane. Texas is too big."
Oh, I have to ask you guys a question before we wrap up. So you can you can think about this, but what has been the best book you read this year so far?
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my first questions, and then we got distracted. Abby, you go first.
Oh no!
Well, you have to think about it. Let me go first because you can think about it. Look up your Goodreads. I have 2, and it has to be The Wall of Storms.
Yes.
I think it is on par with Words of Radiance when it comes to sequels. Like, it is just as good. And another sequel I really, really enjoyed. I mean, it's not as good as Wall of Storms, but Call of the Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. the second book in Tai Child trilogy.
I'm really excited to try that trilogy. I almost joined your read along, but I was like, I can't do another read along.
I can't do it. I mean, the more I read it, the more challenging I'm finding it to recommend, because it is like the writing style is
Matt
so
is a
weird
big
and-
fan of this. Matt
He
over
is,
here,
yeah, yeah.
fanning book reviews. He was the
Oh.
first person I knew that gushed about it. Like I've seen people
I'll
like
stay
it.
silent then.
Yeah. So,
Didn't
but yeah,
you not like it?
I very good at and a hidden gem. So it's not in my top 3, but I thoroughly enjoy the Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. It's one of
Nice.
those fast-paced, just very enjoyable, fun kind of reads, and had a wonderful time with it.
Yeah, I want to read that. I have the whole paper. My problem with that series is I have the whole trilogy and like the
Self-published.
really nice self-published art, and then now he's went and updated it all, and so I'm like, well, I want to read these ones, but the new ones are gonna be the better flowing story. So I don't know.
You can like maybe borrow from your library.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
My favorite book of the year as of right now is Legend by David Gemmell. I think I just love that book. I did not expect to like it nearly as much as I did, but I am 80% of the way through Lord of Emperors by Guy Gavriel Kay, and that actually is my book of the year. I can't officially make it that because like I guess I could hate the ending, but as long as it doesn't screw anything up, it will be my book of the year.
Wow, I haven't heard anything by Guy.
Yeah, he's very good. He's coming to my city or nearby my city next week, and I really hope I can meet him. I'm gonna check my work schedule right now. While I check my work schedule, you go, Abby.
What was the book you just said by Guy Gavriel Kay?
Lord of Emperors, but it's the second book in the Sarantine Mosaic. So the first one is Sailing to Sarantium.
Is that the Chinese one?
No, it is based on Emperor Justinian, which is Byzantine Empire, 5th century.
Is it like a historical fantasy?
So the way that Guy Gavriel Kay talks about his books is it's a quarter turn to the fantastical because it reads a lot like historical fiction, but it has a little bit of magic in them, depending on the story. Tagana has a lot of magic, like it's about 2 sorcerers, so like high fantasy. But a lot of them take place in the same world, and then his 2 Chinese books take place in a different world, but they're not really connected except the series. But it'll be based on a historical time period, based on historical characters, and then he will just change stuff. So he changes all the names so that he can then do whatever story he wants to tell. So I wouldn't call it like, if you read the Sarantine Mosaic, I don't think you could say you read a historical fiction about the Byzantine Empire. But I do think you could use that knowledge to then look at that period, and you're like, oh, this guy's based on Justinian, and his wife is Theodora, and like you kind of have a context. Yeah.
Before Abby goes, I swear, Guy Gavriel Kay, he's one of those authors that other authors always rave about.
Yeah, he's an author's author for sure. Nicholas Eames and Brandon Sanderson both love Guy Gavriel Kay, despite writing nothing like him. So I think he just had like a really big influence on a lot of fantasy authors because he's extraordinary. He had a chapter in this last book that was a chariot race, and Jake Bishop told me, he was like, this chariot race is 10 out of 10 good. I was like, it's not. Like, it's just not going to be. And I was sitting there. I kept rereading pages during this chariot race because I was like, this is just too good. Like, I cannot believe how good this chariot race is. It was unbelievable.
All right, Abby.
Okay. I feel like I've been having a very, very good year for books. Much better than last year. Last year, I felt like I was really struggling to find favorites, whereas this year, there's been a lot of very, very strong books. So I'll run through. I've got a little list.
Go on, give me some recommendation.
Okay. So I don't know if either of you two would really get along with it, but Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies.
It's on my list.
I really, really enjoyed that book.
It was like
cozy, light academia following Emily, who goes off to the made-up version of the Faroe Islands and discovers fairies.
Nice.
And it was just a very happy book. And I didn't have a very good January, and that book was a very good distraction from my January. So
awesome.
I feel as though it was like right time to read that book.
Yeah. Like slice of life. If you read it in the when you're in the mood for it, it can be amazing.
Yeah.
I then probably my biggest surprise. This is like a spoiler for my mid-year book tag, which I need to edit. Biggest surprise, Tyranny of Faith by
Oh.
Richard
Love
second
Tyranny of
book.
Faith.
In Empire of the Wolf.
Oh man, that is a good book. The ending,
The
like
ending's
it just
crazy.
gets down.
The last like 25% of that book, wild.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
because
just realized I only gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, and so I need to change that to 5.
yeah, because like in the
Critical
beginning,
Abby came out right after finishing it.
yeah, like the
Yeah,
beginning.
I
it
put it 4.5 as my rating, but then I put like in the notes, but I'd only put the 4 stars, whereas now I've changed it to 5 because that was such a good book.
Yeah,
and I was surprised because I was a bit
with side quests
lukewarm.
almost.
I was a bit lukewarm on the first one, but then that second book was just on a whole other level.
Oh no, I also love the Justice of Kings, but yeah, Tyranny of Faith.
I love both of them. I actually don't know which one I prefer more.
No, they're very
I think I like the ending of Tyranny of Faith more than any other part of the series. So it's easy to say I liked the book better, but I think I struggled more during the middle than I did in Justice of Kings. So
yeah, because there's like a side quest, or it feels like a side quest, but like he wraps it up and it is worthwhile.
Cersei and Augustus are both fantastic.
I really liked A Day of Fallen Night.
Nice.
Well.
Yeah,
need
that's
to read
exciting.
That one. We both, me and Abby, we met Samantha Shannon a month ago.
Did you tell her you thought her books were mid?
I did. No, I didn't.
You guys met Adrian Tchaikovsky.
I interviewed her for a video of mine.
So, she's someone that I've got arcs of. I've got Samantha Shannon arcs.
Nice.
They're not Fourth Wing arcs though.
Yeah, you should just message that one and be like, I got some arcs.
Got some, but they're not quite the right ones. And then I feel like the First Law, or probably, well, I'm going to see how I feel about the third one, but I've really enjoyed books 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And it's fantasy romance, but I have really enjoyed the Serpent and the Wings of Night series by Chris Broadbent.
You wave your fantasy romance flag, Abby. We're not going to judge you.
I am. No, just kidding. No, yeah, go for it.
Oh. So there we go. There's a selection.
Yeah, that's good. Nice. That's a good selection.
I need to start figuring out like a top 5 or something, because like I haven't made any videos in a while, but now that I'm back, I want to like do a catch up. So I want to do like just like, a couple. Here are my favorites of the year so far.
Yeah.
And I've only thought of 2, so I'll have to go through and look. Legend is so good though. Like you guys should read it. It's 300 pages.
I need to add it to my TBR for sure.
Yeah, I honestly expected like a 3.5, 4-star read, just based on the premise. It's like an old guy that's trying to protect a fortress. It's like overwhelmed, but the context of David Gemmell thinking he had cancer when he wrote it, and it's incredible. It's a very good book.
John Gwynne recommends that book.
Yes, I can see for sure like where John Gwynne gets a lot of his influence from. The writing is not that like, I mean, they're both kind of utilitarian prose, but I would say David Gemmell is way more heroic, like more like optimistic, like idealized. Like he has way more idealized versions, like Lord of the Rings kind of style of people, than John Gwynne, who kind of has more not grimdark, but maybe just like more realistic, like even keeled, middle of the road types. But I've only read 4 David Gemmell books, so I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely an author I need to check out.
So for the last second half of the year here, what are some series or authors that you guys really want to prioritize and read?
I need to wrap up a lot of series, weirdly enough, like Red Rising, like I'm going to wrap that up, and Books of Babel, and the Tide Child trilogy. Like I'm very close to wrapping up like 4 or 5 series. But for the second half, and the Dandelion Dynasty, I'm also getting close to that one. But I would love to either read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn or the Lycaeus trilogy, both which are quite chunky series. So, yeah, those 2 potentially, or at least one of them.
Nice.
I also want to do some wrapping up of series. So I have 1 book left in The First Law. I have 1 book left in the Bone Shard Daughter.
How are you finding it?
I enjoyed those two. I read them like as they came out, so my memory's a little bit foggy. So I've got one book left there. I've got one book left in the Ninth Reign series.
It's that series. The more time that goes by, the more I appreciate it.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. I thought you just read the first two. That's awesome.
No, I read the whole trilogy. Yeah, like I loved it when I read it, but the more time that goes by, like I feel like it's a very solid recommendation.
Yeah, I want to be able to finish the Forgetting Moon series now that I've reread the first one. I want to reread and finish like the Mask of Mirrors series.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of series where I'm like, I need to get these things finished. More so than like series that I want to start. I just like I need to get things finished and then I can think about what I want to start.
Yeah.
So I've just got a lot of those to work my way through where I just need to read the final book.
Yeah, that's really fun. Like last year, I started organizing my year so that December I could finish series. Like as the year went further on, I was getting closer and closer to the end of a lot of series. And I was like, if I structure this right, I can end like 5 major series at the end. And then I just went crazy. And I was like, well, I can. So then I specifically made it so that December I only read final books. And I don't remember the exact number. It was like 19 series I finished. But some of them were, like
19.
I know, but I read a lot. Just don't worry about it. But like some of them was like I finished like a novella trilogy. So like that was like a novella. And then like, I finished small. But yeah, it was, and I finished a bunch of series. But then this year I started way more than 19 series, so I'm still at a deficit.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many books on my TBR. I need to get to some of I've got Brandon Sanderson, which I need to do some more reading of now. Like I finished Lost Metal this year, but I guess at some point I need to get to Rhythm of War. And I want to finish the Skyward series as well.
Yeah, I want to finish that this year too.
I haven't done any of the secret projects yet. There's just so many books that I want to read. It's hard.
I think you're gonna really like Tress. I don't know about the other two. I think Tress you'll really like.
My expectations of how much I'm able to read is very different from the reality.
Yeah, so true.
I think that's all of us.
Yeah.
I joined the read along.
Do you not think I'd like the third secret project?
I think that you would. I'm just more confident you would like Tress. I liked the third one the most. And the third one does have more romance, so that might really hit you. But I just think Tress is more your vibe. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
My sister just got me Tress, so I've literally just got that one.
Nice.
But
yeah, somebody gave me this one for my birthday, which was really, really nice because this is a beautiful book. And I didn't back the physical one, so I was like, well, I guess I'm just out of luck. But this book is gorgeous.
That's a very good gift.
I think
so you get the very nice edition for your birthday, and I get the Gallant edition for my birthday.
I have better friends than you.
What are you commenting on my sister? You're getting me the
better Abby's sister. One? I think I'm gonna buy Yumi in the Nightmare Painter though, because that one just looks so beautiful.
I feel like those two, from the sound of them, I'm gonna like. I'm not too sure I'm gonna enjoy.
The second one sucks. That's why. Not good.
Everybody
I don't think it sucks. I don't think it sucks. I gave it 2 stars, but it's a Brandon Sanderson 2 stars, and I don't I don't like doing that. Like I don't like being like, oh, I'm rating it against somebody else's other work, but it just like him being my favorite author. It's so tied to my wantings from him that I'm just like, this is probably a fine book. If you told me this was Sander Branderson, I would be like, oh yeah, 3.5 stars. But as a Brandon Sanderson book, I'm just like, dude, this was not it. So
it's such a long time.
I would have backed it, but like the price of the shipping.
Yeah, that was the main thing for me too, is the shipping.
Just made it absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to get going, guys. I want to thank you both so much for coming and spending your evening for me, and for some of you, your afternoons that are in the comments. Do either of you have any final thoughts, any concerns, anything about bread that you want to tell me while we're here?
No sugar in bread.
100% agree. No sugar in bread.
All right. We have the divide for the ages here. Thanks everybody in the comments for showing up and chatting. It's been great. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.